Imagine this: a fragile, yellowed map. Its edges are curled, the ink fading. It was drawn in London in the year 1890. At first glance it looks useless, outdated, forgotten, a relic you'd expect to find trapped in a museum drawer. But here's the twist: this map, more than a century old, still predicts how millions of people move through London today. Your daily commute, your traffic jams, even which neighborhoods thrive and which ones don't. So how can something so old still shape our modern cities? Because beneath the glass towers, the tube lines, and the smart sensors of today, London is still following a ghostly blueprint, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. This 1890 map wasn't designed to predict the future. It was drawn during a moment of total chaos. London was exploding: factories, railways, and people were arriving faster than the city could possibly adapt. Engineers, planners, and politicians were scrambling to impose some kind of order. So, they drew lines. Railway corridors slicing through neighborhoods, canals threading between factories, residential zones pushed outward like ripples in water. Many of these plans were never fully built. Some were abandoned, others were quietly buried. But here's the secret of cities: nothing ever truly disappears. Infrastructure leaves scars, old paths get reused, and decisions made long ago echo for centuries. And that's where the map's real power begins. Let's zoom in. On the map you can see proposed railway lines. Some were never even completed, but follow those imaginary lines forward in time, and they become today's major roads, tube lines, and congested commuter corridors. Why? Because once land is cleared, once a corridor exists, future planners will almost always take the path of least resistance. Old canals, they become roads. Abandoned rail alignments, they guide the paths for underground tunnels. What feels like a modern traffic nightmare is often just Victorian logic playing out in the present day. Back then, planners weren't thinking about cars, climate change, or a population of 9 million people. They were reacting to steam engines, factory whistles, and mass migration. Yet those early choices locked London into a pattern, a framework that still governs how the city breathes, moves, and clogs up. This is why some bottlenecks feel so inevitable, because in many ways they were designed that way. But this map doesn't just predict traffic, it predicts people's lives. Look closely at the industrial zones marked back in 1890. Now, compare them to modern maps showing areas of deprivation. The overlap is unsettling. Factories were placed near cheap housing. Wealthier residents were pushed uphill literally and socially away from the smoke and noise. Those early zoning decisions hardened into social patterns: who lived near pollution, who had access to transport, and who accumulated opportunity. Even today, neighborhood boundaries often follow these invisible Victorian lines. Railways didn't just divide land, they divided communities. And once that kind of segregation is built into the infrastructure, it becomes self-reinforcing, passed down from one generation to the next. This isn't accidental. It's the long shadow of economic efficiency, written in brick and iron. In the 21st century, we are still living inside those old outlines. And this isn't just about London, Paris, New York, Berlin, Tokyo. Every major city carries its own urban DNA, early decisions that limit future choices. Urban planners call this path dependency. Once a city commits to a certain direction, changing course becomes incredibly expensive, disruptive, and politically painful. That's why modern cities struggle so much to add bike lanes, expand green space, or retrofit for climate resilience. They're not starting with a blank slate. They're negotiating with ghosts, trying to fit 21st century needs into 19th century frameworks, and often they're losing. So why does this faded map matter so much right now? Because it teaches us something deeply uncomfortable. The maps we are drawing today will outlive all of us. Smart city infrastructure, data networks, climate defenses, AI-managed transport systems. These are tomorrow's ghostly blueprints. 100 years from now, someone might look back at our plans and ask, why did they build it that way? Why didn't they think further ahead? History shows us that cities don't forget. They remember everything. So the real question isn't whether today's decisions will shape the future. They absolutely will. The question is, what kind of future are we quietly locking in right now? If an 1890 map can still predict London's present, imagine what today's invisible maps are already predicting about our tomorrow, and whether we'll be brave enough to redraw them. Thanks for watching. If this made you think differently about your own city, consider subscribing for more stories like this.